Hey everybody, today we have an RE5R01A or 5AT if you want to call it that. It's out of a 2008 G35X, I believe. So I don't know if this is going to be anything fun. I'm going to find some damage. This guy brought a junkyard trans for us to build for his hot rod. So this thing was rusted to death, and Kenny here took the liberty of hitting this thing with PB Blaster, the good old nut buster that who knows whether it works or not, but hopefully we won't be all messed up with rusted in bolts here. So let's get rid of all the 14 millimeters first. We'll start with the tail housing. Obviously a bracket here. Will give you guys a hint as to how rusty this thing is. Looks like it's caved in too. Might have to change that. Bell housing. Sometimes there's a lot of Loctite on these things. And it's kind of odd. I don't know the rhyme or reason, but we have two bolts with a whole boatload of Loctite, and the rest of them aren't. Get a lock-up O-ring off of here. Well, I have good news if you guys are interested. This thing smells pretty horrible, so you'll get to see some damage. There's a clip here that I'm not going to take off because it's gone already, but take your clip off. Okay, your tail housing. We'll leave the parking mechanism intact for now. Okay, so you have this piece in here, a parking pole, a return spring, and you have a Torrington bearing back here. And this race is going to sit on that bearing. We have our output shaft and our parking gear. And this parking gear also serves as the tone ring for that output shaft speed sensor. And we have another Torrington bearing here. Let's hope we break 0 of these bolts, but I don't know how likely that's going to be. Actually, we might get lucky because I guess they must have had this pan off. Kind of common with junkyard transmissions is sometimes they'll take the pan off and take the filter out and leave you a little sticker saying, hey, you have to drop the pan and change the filter. Why they do that, I don't know. Maybe to inspect to see if there's metal in it before they sell it to you, but it's been my experience that junkyards don't care what they sell you. How many times over the years can we put a junkyard transmission in for somebody and it didn't even back off the lift?
Good 30-40% of the time.
Pretty bad news. We don't really need to do that anymore. Kenny and I are former co-workers together at a regular transmission shop many years ago, and yeah, regular transmission shops, you got to be careful. They do all kinds of stuff that maybe isn't the best bet. And obviously every shop is different. I'm not painting everybody with a wide brush, but okay, so we have I don't know. I'd probably like to see a little less metal if it was my car. But, you know, realistically, the guy bought this knowing that he was going to rebuild it, so he probably doesn't care. And we're going to fix everything up. Now, when we're taking this valve body out, not all the bolts have to come out. So we're going to show you which ones. As you see, this filter's a little smashed. Back in the day, you couldn't buy these filters. If you needed a filter, you'd have to buy a whole valve body from Nissan or Infiniti, which also includes the TCM. So, you know, it was like a $1,400 filter. Okay, think I'm gonna get these right.
Good luck.
All right, let's get rid of this first. So it's kind of important to not take the bolts out that hold the valve body together. We're just trying to get the ones that hold it to the case. And these are kind of old. I don't really do them every day anymore, so.
The one up on the bracket.
This one? No, I don't think that one doesn't go through.
Yeah, but you take the...
All right. Kenny says. Okay. So. Wow, that wasn't too bad. I might not have got any extra ones. Okay, so this is something to take note of. And it's like other stuff that I've done videos on. This bolt has a shoulder on it. Like if you compare it to this bolt, this is thicker. And what that matches is a smaller hole. See that hole smaller than this one? So this serves to align everything. So you always want to put this bolt in first when you're putting the valve body back on. And what I did forget, give this a couple taps. See how that works. And again, there's a clip that holds this thing in that we're missing, so we're gonna have to find another one. Pretty common item in transmission shops, though. It's one of those things that's always lost. The next thing we're gonna have to deal with is this band servo, and it's sometimes a bit of a bitch to get out. And this is one of the big problems in these things, is this band burning. There's not all that much you could do about it. I mean, you could upgrade the valve body and get it to shift with some more authority, but at the end of the day, it's just a small band and it's just not enough capacity. So what I recommend is, with performance stuff, is you don't beat the crap out of this thing as far as like trying to get wide open throttle, 4 or 5 shifts and things like that, because it's, you know, it's just not going to hold up regardless of what we do to upgrade the thing. If you have a lot of power and you're making full throttle shifts at the 5th, it's not going to work. Remember, kids, don't lose an eye doing this. Oh. So as we see, this thing's like a little anemic. You know, unfortunately, nobody makes a larger diameter one, because that would certainly increase the holding capacity if you had a bigger servo that would sit in there. And now we're going to have to shoot the pump out. You kind of want to be careful where you pry, and I'll show you why in a second. All of these little holes get picked up on by these 2 speed sensors in the valve body. So you don't want to dodge any of those up or you know, damage them in any way. And as expected, here's our burnt band. You can see it kind of glazed this a little bit, but probably put that in the lathe and polish that up. That'll be nice. Another thing to look at, luckily it's not an issue in this one, but these tend to have a lube system breakdown. And there's a one-way clutch, or sprag if you'd like to call it that, in here. And it rides on this pump. All right, so we have this bearing race. And this turns in one direction and locks in the other. So what happens when these are bad? You can't get this thing apart for anything. It kind of gets welded together, and oftentimes you just have to buy a new pump and a new drum and kind of start over in that regard. It's a little snap ring in here, and you got to get it up little by little. Sometimes it helps if you sit it on something. I'm try and prop that up and have that pick under there. Depending on what this is in, it has some tabs sometimes that you can get it out with. Okay, there it goes. So just so you can see what it looks like, this thing's like, you know, it's a snap ring. It's captured in here. And it kind of staples it into that drum. Okay. Our planetary looks halfway decent here. This, which goes here. And oftentimes these are burnt. These are your input clutches. Yeah, they're starting to burn. A little black. The steels don't really have hot spots on them, but definitely bad. So when we do this, maybe I'll show it. We're going to machine this piston down, and we have different thickness parts made so we can get extra frictions in there, which is going to help us with a little more torque capacity. And if you guys watch any of the other videos, there's a common theme. These transmissions are made by Jatco, so whether they're in Nissans, you know, the 7-speed Nissans, the 5-speed Nissan autos, the 5-speed Subaru autos, they all have similar setups. They're all made by the same company, and a lot of the parts even interchange. So we have another planetary. Someone felt that this was okay. Good thing we have that. Now we know. Yeah, did you know okay is the most understandable word on the planet?
Is it?
Across all languages, yes. I read that somewhere. Everybody knows what okay is. So we have another one-way clutch here. Turn and lock. We have a high-low reverse clutch. And these things have a ton of clearance. And this is common with these Nissan and Jatco units, the Subarus. They run a ton of clutch clearance, and you kind of like to get rid of some of it. You can see this is starting to burn the clutches and the steels. We have some hot spots there. But this is nice. This one comes with 4 frictions, and we're able to get 6, 7 in here, depending on the model. So that really helps increase the torque capacity. You have a bearing race here, a bearing down here, and you want to take a good look down in this drum, because these rings that are on this shaft kind of dig into it. So these look good. Some guys put rings out of other transmissions in here. I think people put them out of it's either a front drive Chrysler or a rear drive Ford. I kind of don't like this. I like the factory rings. But, you know, everybody has their preferences. More than one way to skin a cat. None of which the cat likes. These are direct clutches. And they're a little burnt too. And realistically, this thing came out of a junkyard. And it probably was working adequately in a factory car. You know, even those clutches are definitely less than perfect. They probably were still to a point where it's asymptomatic, because the modern day automatic transmissions have adaptive learning, and through adaptive learning, they could compensate for a lot of wear before you feel it, you know, before it's perceptible to the driver. But, you know, then once it is, it's pretty bad once you're finally taking them apart, usually. Okay, we have low reverse clutches in here, and these are almost never bad. You know, obviously we change all the clutches when we do one of these, but they're typically not a problem in one of these units. Now another snap ring in here, and it's under spring tension. Looks like it's not going to give us a hard time. So what we have under here is, like a lot of these other units, this real fine snap ring, retainer, and what I call a slinky spring. Okay. We have our anti-rattle spring. I don't have the right pliers handy, so I'll try and use these. All right, I'm punished for being lazy. I got to get the right thing. All right, Kenny just handed me these. I could get this thing from across the room, I guess. Low reverse clutch piston. We have a bearing race down here. Looks like I pulled off one of the seals inadvertently. And now we have another snap ring down here that's typically a hump, so I'll get that in a second. But first, we have these 3 torques that need to be removed. These hold the center support. And what's interesting, in any of these units, the factory service manual, if you could get a hold of one, it doesn't show anything beyond here. Like, in other words, they say, don't take this crap apart. There's nothing you need to worry about back there, which obviously, you know, I guess that's up to you, but there's definitely stuff back there that you need to look at. So let's get this out. All right, so what you need is a longer version of the torques. So now we have this last humpy snap ring to get out. So I don't know if I'm going to struggle with it, or maybe it'll be easy, or maybe I'll just edit it so it looks like I did a nice job. Didn't have to fight with it. We'll find out in a minute. In the meantime, see what this sticker said. Used automatic transmission, limited warranty, installation procedures. Remove converter bracket, replace all seals, install new transmission filter kit, flush and inspect transmission cooler lines, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to worry about any of this, but this is what they want if you're going to just throw it in the car. In the transmission industry, you also have all kinds of half-ass modified screwdrivers to do what you need to do. So let's see which is the one that's going to help us here. What's your bet, Ken? Is this going to be a bitch, or is it going to come out easily?
Oh, they're always a bitch.
Always a bitch. It's even more of a bitch when you're trying to show people how to do it. And my shiny head in here. Hope you don't mind. And this thing is tighter than a crab's ass, which is watertight. But we got it on the run. And again, with most things, you have a bevel snap ring here. So the bevel faces towards you and the flat side faces back. Here's our support. And you got to kind of mess with it and take it out just right. Something else that's interesting to note. You have these 3 sealing rings here. This gives a dual feed to your direct clutches. So in other words, when you're using reverse, you need to change, you have to reverse engine rotation, so you need a lot more torque capacity. So this is like the old GMs, the turbo 400s, turbo 350s, where in reverse they like double the flow to that piston and they fill up both chambers of it for more torque capacity. So when we build these, we can kind of do a similar thing, that we do with these other units, but it doesn't involve removing a ring. Like on the old GMs, you'd leave a ring off, or inside the drum, you'd leave one of the rubber seals off, or you could do both. But with this, you don't have to do either. Now back here, we have another one-way clutch. And this is a pretty formidable piece in here. You don't really see too many problems with them, as long as the lube system doesn't break down. And despite the Nissan service manual, you have a couple sets of clutches back here that you want to look at. But I guess this is why dealerships don't rebuild transmissions anymore. They kind of don't know how to. The last thing that we have in here is like a coast clutch that gives you engine braking in certain gear positions. And usually there isn't too much wrong back here, but obviously you're rebuilding something, you have to check it all. You don't know what's bad and what isn't. You have no idea unless you look. So this is what we got for you. Maybe we'll do another couple videos with this thing. Maybe the valve body, maybe reassembling it. But all in all, not too bad. We're going to be able to make a nice performance unit out of it. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.